Hey everyone, it's Melissa Hawkins coming to you with another segment of Melly Talks. And today's segment is going to be another How to Be a Wife segment. First and foremost, I want to wish everybody a happy holidays. Um, I don't celebrate Thanksgiving. Um, my family and I, we just made a big feast. We don't celebrate the mass genocide of innocent people. So back to what I was saying about happy holidays. I hope everybody had a good time with their family and what have you. If you can't tell, I am feeling under the weather. Um, I have been sick for the past couple days. Don't worry, I don't got the vid. Now I ain't got the vid, but I can't even really hear myself. So today's segment and today's topic that I want to talk about, we are going to talk about selflessness. You need to be selfless in order to be a wife. If you do not have the capability of being selfless, I'm sorry, but your chances of somebody marrying you is very slim. Now, from the time that we're young, we're taught to be selfish and choose us and it doesn't matter what's going on in our lives. We need to make sure that we're happy and that you know we are okay and we come first. That is true when you're young. But if you're on your way to be a wife, if you want someone to look at you and be like, yeah, she's suitable, or if you're wondering what wifehood actually looks like. And as I mentioned, wifehood, I'm taking things directly out of my book, 12 Steps to Wifehood. Y'all will be seeing it soon. It's an amazing project that I'm currently working on. It will be dropping very soon. Basically just details 12 steps that it takes to be a wife and a divine wife. You know what I'm saying? A divine wife. So back to what I'm saying, selflessness. Now, selflessness looks a little different based on who you talk to, based off circumstances. So I'm just going to give you guys a very broad example. So there are two ways that you can be selfless. You need to be selfless when it comes to your spouse. You need to be selfless when it comes to your family. Now, everybody always preaches, take care of you first. You cannot help if you're not okay. And although that may be true, there's a common misconception that you always come first. And I hate to break it to you, I'm going to be very honest with you, but that's not how it goes. That's not how life goes as a wife. That's not how life goes as a divine wife. And a lot of times, if you look into it, like I do a lot of research. I am on social media very often, looking for things to talk about, seeing what's going on in the media. Not that I really care, but you all care, so I want to stay up to date on that. And you will see that a lot of men will say, I did this because all she cared about was the kids. I didn't even matter to her after 6, 7 years, And this is where this selflessness comes in. Let's start with selflessness when it comes to your spouse. You need to, at times, more often than not, put your spouse's needs or potential spouse's needs before yours. And that looks a little bit like doing special things for him. That looks a little bit like, very simple things, very, very simple things. Like, even if, let's say you're a stay-at-home mom, you're home with the kids, and you've had a rough day, and he's at work, working to support the family. When he comes home, you may feel like shit. You may feel unhappy. You may feel overwhelmed. But when he walks through that door, you are to greet him with a smile. It is selfish of you to not take into consideration all the load that he's had on him throughout the day, dealing with other people, dealing with work, and just load all your negative energy onto him. That's where you kind of take a step back and just be pleasant. Be pleasant when you see him, and not think about yourself and how you feel at that moment. Because I promise you, that will make an overall difference in your relationship. So that's number one. Now, number two, when it comes to intimacy. Now, don't get me wrong. When it comes to being intimate, both parties matter. But there should definitely be times where you kind of put his needs and his wants and what he wants from you over what you want. And when you do these things, when you do things like that, I'm not going to get into details, I'm not going to get into specifics, but when you do things like that, you receive, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that you only do these things to receive something better with the expectation that you'll get something, because let's be honest, that may not be true, but you may do this XYZ for him, and 3 weeks later you'll see the return on that. 3 weeks later he'll do something, out of the kindness of his heart, something to just make you smile. It's just over because he's in a good mood. He's happy. He appreciates you putting his needs and his wants into consideration before yours. Now that I guess that I wouldn't say that's on the extreme, because let's be honest, everybody loves to be intimate. We all gotta please our man. We all want our man to please us. But let's go on the more less extreme aspect. Making his plate. Cooking his special meals, asking him what he wants to eat, taking him into consideration. You may not want that for dinner, but he does, and you kind of put him over you. That's you in the act of being selfless. I'm doing my best to break this down for you guys and give you a real world example so you understand exactly what I'm talking about and exactly what I mean. So, like I said, making him a plate so he doesn't need to go get up and make his own food. Asking him if he wants dessert, and you go ahead and you make that for him. Whether you're tired, whether you just stood up and made dinner for everybody, it does not matter. That is being selfless, and that is required to be a divine wife. And like I was saying, there's this common misconception of, well, I'm not gonna do that. What about me? I matter. I promise you, you do matter, sis. You matter. You are the glue that holds the family together. You are the glue to the foundation. I promise you that. The household cannot run without you. But don't tell anybody I said that. You know what I'm saying? I'm just joking. The household cannot run without you. You matter. You are important. You are vital. But if in every situation and in every moment that you always choose yourself because that's what you're used to doing, because that is what you were taught, you will not be a successful wife. Your marriage may end in divorce. You may not ever even get married, because if you cannot show a man that you have those selfless qualities, he may not think of you as a future wife. Because believe it or not, everybody talks about love language, right? Now I'm kind of going off, but I need this point to hit home. I need you to understand this. Everyone talks about love language. For the most part, most normal men, their love language is acts of service. Okay? And if their love language is not acts of service, I don't want to say that there's something wrong with them, but that isn't very typical. That is more on the masculine end. When your love language is affection, attention, and things like that's more on the feminine side of the spectrum. So that's why I say most men, that isn't very normal. So having said that, they want a selfless woman. Don't get me wrong. I am not saying you constantly live for everybody else. You never take yourself into consideration. No. What I'm saying is there's a time and a place, but you need to put your spouse, your significant other, and your children before yourself a good majority of the time, because that's what it takes to be a wife. Okay? That is very crucial. That's very important, and you cannot miss that step. I outlined this in my book many times throughout many chapters, and like I said, it's very important that you get a good understanding of this. Now, to my next point, when it comes to your children. So, of course, it's very natural for women to kind of have that mother bear instinct, kind of, always feel the need to protect their children, and do what it is that they feel their children need. But there are those women who can't quite grasp the concept of my kids come before me, my husband comes before my kids. Like, can't quite grasp that concept. So when it comes to selflessness, with your family, that looks a lot like, let's say you work outside the house. That looks a lot like, even if you're tired, you still get up, you still show up, you're still there, you still do what you need. Your child has a project due at 10 a.m. the next day. You are sacrificing your sleep, you are sacrificing your time, you are sacrificing your energy to be there for that child, to help your child do these things. Like, this seems very self-explanatory, but there are a lot of women who really don't get that, because they're selfish by nature. And selfishness is a trait you want to completely expel from your body, expel from your energy, expel from everything that you know, because it's poison. It is poison to the modern wife. Now, if you think about our grandmothers or great grandmothers, our great grandmothers were responsible for a lot. For our great grandmothers, there was no such thing as me time at all. Obviously, times have changed significantly. There are a lot of women who don't work, don't, their husband provide for everything, and they still have nannies. They're still at the spa every few days out of the week. They're still having all this me time, even though they don't necessarily need it. You know what I'm saying? So this whole me time concept is very new. Our grandmothers knew nothing of that. So, and like I said, there is a correlation to that, because look at the marriage rate for our grandparents versus us now, modern women in modern times. There is a significant difference, and that is for a reason. So back to my original point, selflessness. You need to be selfless. You need to sacrifice. You need to be there. You need to show up. You need to be there for your family, for your spouse, especially. There is no such thing as marriage without putting someone else's needs before yours, whether that's your child, or whether that's your husband or your future husband. That just isn't ideal. That's not how it works. And I understand that it's a little difficult to even imagine that or fathom that. And some people may be upset with what I'm saying, because, like I said, I don't know who put this out there that, you need to have all this me time. Because if you think about it, if you want to be successful, you want to be a successful woman, in other words, you want to have maybe some type of career for yourself. If you want to have a career for yourself, if you want to be a good wife, if you want to be a good mother, there are things that you need to sacrifice, and a lot of times it's yourself. It's yourself. It's your time to yourself. It's those small things. As one of my favorite YouTubers say, you really can't have it all without giving up something. There's no room to be selfish. There's no room to choose feeding yourself before feeding your child. There's no room to choose your happiness and what you want over what your husband wants. And let's talk about that return that I was talking about. So when it comes to return, I don't mean that you do things, because you think, okay, if I do X, Y, and Z tomorrow at this time, I know my husband's going to do this or that for me. No. The return is happiness. The return is him being thoughtful. The return is you guys share a connection, because the grass is not greener on the other side. The grass is greener where you water it. So if you constantly choose if you constantly say, well, I'm not about to give nothing up tonight because I'm tired, and it's been 3.5 weeks since you and your husband have gotten intimate, what do you think is going to happen? If you have the idea of, well, I don't know how to make this, and I'm not going to make it because I don't know how to make it, even though my husband wants this, even though my husband's requested it, what do you think the outcome of that is going to be? It's not going to be in your favor. You cannot be a selfish woman and expect the world to not take that into consideration. Okay? You cannot be a woman that would prefer to be at the spa or prefer to be hanging out with friends and drinking on the weekends and partying on the weekends and expect your children to still have that motherly bond and connection with you. That's not how that works. You have to sacrifice something and you have to be there. You have to show up. You have to I don't know any other more simple way to put it. To be a divine wife, you cannot be selfish. You must exhibit selflessness. And that's just point blank, period. Now, I want to thank everybody for tuning in and hearing what I have to say. I feel like I sound like, I don't know, maybe a little frog right now. I feel like I sound like a frog right now. I definitely am not sounding like myself. But thank you so much for tuning in. And if you agree with me or disagree with me, please let me know in the comments. Please let me know what you agree with and, well, what you disagree with or agree with and why you agree or disagree. I love to talk to you all. I love to have conversation with y'all, whether you agree with what I'm saying or not. It really helps me out when it comes to creating my content and creating more material, and also kind of finding different talking points as well as different perspectives, because I have my perspective and that's just that. And that's why I always have something to say. I feel like what I have to say adds value to the community, because it's not too often you see a young black woman who is married with children encouraging other women to be wives, encouraging other women to change their mindset, because that's what it all comes down to. Like I have said in many of my other videos, we have all been conditioned and programmed to think one way or another. And that conditioning and programming is not conditioning and programming to be a wife or submit to a man or possess the qualities that it takes to be a wife. So that's my reason behind what I do. I want to let everybody know what to expect when you do become a wife, what it takes to become a wife, how to deal with everything, how to navigate everything. So once again, thank you for tuning in. Please like, comment, or share my video. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.